some introductions. We already had Ernest Bass up here. Howard Morris, ladies and gentlemen. That's fine. You can just sit about anywhere, right, Lyle?
Right.
Okay. Wherever you're comfortable, Howard.
Howard sits anywhere he wants.
What are you all looking at? You ever saw a guy in his own suit?
They bring back a lot of memories, don't they? We get here in Grand Rapids, WGN out of Chicago runs back-to-back episodes of Andy at 9 and 10 o'clock, or 9:30 our time. When I was doing nights, I never missed, every single day. It was like, my kids want to watch Barney. Sorry, it ain't happening. We're going to watch Andy Griffith. So, Howard, it's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
And I know everybody's got some questions to ask. We'll get to you in just a second. Let's move on here. I think we have Colonel Crittenden back there someplace. Of course, you remember Malcolm Merriweather, right? The guy on the bicycle, ladies and gentlemen, Bernard Fox.
He's Jewish, you know. He's not bringing things.
I never did change my name from Fuchs, don't you dare.
Next we have someone who all you got to do is just hear her voice. And before she comes out, I'm just going to let her do her trademark line. And Daphne, are you out there?
Hello, doll.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jean Carson, better known as Daphne, works with Andy Griffith.
Nice to see all of you. I have the pleasure of sitting next
Don't lower your voice to us.
He's such a gentleman.
Malcolm was always a gentleman. And a gentleman's gentleman.
Now, this woman was busy with the series, pretty much the whole run of the series, and basically Don Knotts' sidekick. Is she out there, Lyle?
No.
She's not there yet? We'll get to Betty Lynn in just a second here. Who else do we have out there?
Elinor.
Eleanor's out there? Oh, good. The pharmacist. Andy's very first girlfriend on the series way back when. She's been busy since then, though, starring in different sitcoms on national television. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome Ellie Walker, of course, Elinor Donahue.
You don't have to get up, Howie. I'm the one with the
I
mic.
didn't.
I was a gentleman's gentleman. Also a falcon keeper.
We got anybody else up there, Lyle? We're still waiting for two more?
Where's your bicycle?
What's that?
They're on their way.
Okay.
Where's your bicycle?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a chance for you to kind of get up close and personal with these actors and actresses, and I know a lot of you have different questions, and you probably know a lot more about the shows than I do. I'm just a big fan of Mayberry, and I was asked to do this. In fact, I work with WCUZ, a sister station in Young Country, and Andy Rand had a bunch of these tickets sitting on his desk. He's got those mornings on WCUZ here in town. And I walked up to him and I said, Andy, I got to go to that. I don't care what it is. And one thing worked out where they needed a moderator to be here this afternoon, so it didn't take me long to raise my hand to be out here with these folks. So it's a pleasure to be here. And really, I'm just going to let you guys basically steal the show. You got some questions, I'm sure. We're going to talk about a lot of different things here this afternoon. Of course, Andy Griffith is what we probably know these folks maybe personally best for, but their careers span a lot more than just the Andy Griffith Show. And so we're giving them a chance to talk about what they've done in the past, what they're doing, and maybe share some different stories from former movies that they were in and stuff. And I think it'll be really, really interesting. And so we want you guys just to be really comfortable. And basically, if you want to play off with each other, that's fine. Or if you want to throw your 2 cents worth in, which I know Howard will do about every 30 seconds, that's fine. Don't rocks, no rocks, no rocks. So I guess we'll just start here, maybe with Daphne. You were on quite a few episodes. And now, who was your sidekick again?
I was skipping it. Her name was Joyce Jameson, a wonderful girl. Joyce had worked, I think, for a lot of years, and probably Howard knows more about this than I do, with the Billy Barnes Review in Hollywood, which was there for many years. I was in New York working on Broadway in those years, but it was a big thing out there, wasn't it? And Joyce was, well, you know what she looks like. I mean, that's what she looked like. She was just a darling girl and wonderful to work with. And of course, I miss Joyce. She was my partner in crime or whatever we did as fun.
So when the part was really written for you two, were you guys like, did they come to you guys first and say, we got a part for you guys, or did they have a part available and then you guys were trying out for it, or how did that work?
The other two are.
There she is.
Ladies and gentlemen, Betty Lynn. That's great.
The queen.
Well, I'm not going to tell.
Where have you been?
Where have I been? Oh, kiss without a mustache is like eggs without salt.
And last but not least, over the corner, of course, we remember the Darling family, right? Bluegrass music got its start on Andy Griffith, as far as I'm concerned. Charlene Darling, ladies and gentlemen, maybe
Well, I guess you're at the end man. So there you are.
Where have you two been, though? Tell us.
I don't know where she's been, but I'm not telling her.
If somebody has a question, just raise your hand, and I'll come over to you. I know we're kind of in the middle of a question, but I just got to ask you guys something. You've done quite a few of these reunions, haven't you? How many times have you been all together, all 6 of you, or maybe even more so? Is this the first?
Well, this is the first time Elinor has been with us, and we're so thrilled to have her.
Yes.
Asked about Elinor and Ellie, they'd call her and everything, and we're so pleased that she finally been able to work it out to come and be with us.
So what's it like? I mean, I've been on a few different radio programs, and some have been real successful, and some have been so-so. And you always look back to the real success times when things were like really good.
That's for me too. Nobody asked me. It's a plus for me.
Oh, we did mention, I'm sorry, Howard.
Forgive me. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Bernard, I am sorry.
You were in love with him last night.
I'm so fickle.
Last night she was saying she was never going to...
I remember that.
So anybody, I don't care who wants, but what's it like to look back on the series? I mean, you had some huge successes. It had to be a heck of a lot of fun. And is there any like that remorse that I know when it came to an end, when you look back at like, boy, those were the good old days. Do you feel that way at all?
They were the good old days, I think, don't you?
Yeah, we were getting paid for them. We don't get a penny for them now.
But it
You're
was
seeing
fun.
all this stuff free.
No, it was fun.
Well, it was special. I didn't know really how special it was. It was my first experience in any kind of acting. And so to me, I thought this is the way it's going to be from now on. I mean, all these, the cast and the crew and the whole situation was really quite special. Subsequently, when I was on other shows and did other things, you look back and you see really it really was special.
It was.
And it was,
Special
I'm
set.
thrilled to have been a part of it.
Yeah, I think one time, I think that there wasn't that long ago, there was a reunion on television, and I know, Howard, you were there, and I think
I was there.
you were there, that's right. I don't know if anybody else was, but Andy was talking about how the show it is the only show that has never been off the air since it started. To this day, it has never, ever been completely off the air.
And at some point, it's always something.
Right, somebody is running some sort of, and it's really the residuals, you guys would be just rolling in the money.
Yeah, we
Oh, please.
Please, don't bring that up, I know.
Well, it's okay. I mean, how many times have you enjoyed so much being with people and working with them? And it would have been nice if we'd had the kind of setup they have now where people have residuals and things, but on the other hand, I do feel like Maggie said that it was a very wonderful company and we all loved working on it, and there was a chemistry and relationship that developed during all of this as our characters that meant a great deal and of course none of us thought that this would go on and become what it has through the years. That so many of you who weren't even born when we were beginning the show, that are still loving it and care enough to come and see us like you do. Some of you follow along wherever we are, and it is a phenomenon. And to me, I get emotional sometimes about it. I try not to, but it's very touching. And as I've said to some of the ones who had not been here until recently, she went to Ohio for the first time. It is, the fans are so wonderful.
Yes.
And the
Yes,
expression in
they
their
are.
eyes and their faces. Well, I don't think I could talk.
Oh, Betty, you're fine.
Oh,
No, you're
yes, I
fine.
get very emotional.
I tell you, the show, I mean, I know, I think I speak for all of us, the show has brought so many joys, and I don't know really how to explain it. And I know Andy one time said there was something unique about Mayberry. Mayberry was the only place within 30 minutes you could have a crisis, and everything was fine in 30 minutes. It never lasted more than 30 minutes, and things were back to status quo. And I don't know what it was, but I look, every time I look on a map in North Carolina, I try to picture, okay, here's Raleigh, you know. Where would Mayberry actually fall on a map in North Carolina? And it's really unfortunate there's not actually a city called Mayberry, because I think you guys have a street named after everyone, I'm sure, but no doubt about that. But I know I've been really, I love the show. And so anybody have any questions at all, or anything at all?
Somebody put water in my water.
I had a question for Mr. Fox. I was wondering, Mr. Fox, in your travels around the world, or when you meet fans from place, time to time, place to place, do they identify you more from Bewitched or in the Andy Griffith Show?
Oh, Bewitched. Yeah. I'll tell you, I was doing a two-part Columbo, and we were with Peter Falk, and we were shooting the part in London, outside Scotland Yard. And here comes a coachload of Japanese tourists, and they're all hanging out with their cameras saying, "Dr. Bombay! Dr. Bombay!"
Now, Bernard, you're familiar that Dick York was just up the road from us up in Rockford, right? Did he live real close to us here? Were you familiar? Did you know that?
No, my folks are gone now, but
No,
No, talk about-
he didn't understand the question.
Dick York, remember Dick York, the original, Darren?
yeah.
He lived just north of us here in the city called Rockford.
Yeah.
And that's where he passed away. And of course, we just lost Elizabeth Montgomery here within the last month or so. So,
Very few of us left.
yeah. That's a great show. That still runs here in Grand Rapids too, so we get that all the time too. So,
Yeah, for Howard Morris.
Yes, what is it?
Well, I know you've been around a long time, do a lot of voiceovers for commercials. When I was little, I always enjoyed the Qantas commercial. I just wondered if you could do the voice.
I hate Qantas. Is that what you have in mind? That's $200 right
in fact, why don't we that's it. Why don't we take a minute here and just let each one of you explain what you've done so many more characters, so many more voices than just what we know you from Andy Griffith. Of course, we talked about Dr. Bombay and Colonel Crittenden, of course, from Hogan's Heroes fame and stuff. And maybe starting with you, Howard, we'll just work our way down here and some of the things you've done that maybe a lot of us aren't aware of, or maybe some of us are.
Well, I'm new at this. I was telling a story this morning about when I was 5. My mother used to play organ in the silent movie theater. And when I was 5 one Saturday, she decided to take me with her to work on the program for the following week. And I remember being put in the first row of this huge theater and looking up at this silver screen. I had a box of Black Crows in my hand, and my mother was working on the program for next week. And I remember looking up, it was a silent movie called The Last Command, starring Emil Jennings. You're all much too young.
No, Emil Jannings.
And I looked up and I remember thinking, gee, I think I can do that. Well, the jury's still out. That was kind of the beginning, and from there I went into work in school and playing things, and then I had a little band that we played around what was known as the Borscht Circuit in the Catskill Mountains. And my first Broadway show was Hamlet with Maurice Evans, in which I played Laertes. And I've come a long way from that. Hamlet is a play by William Shakespeare. Right? Very tragic. And I haven't been doing tragic stuff much. Except you would look at it and think how tragic. You know what I mean. Did I tell the Edwin story?
Yeah, you sound like you at the moment.
You're probably too young to remember who Edwin was.
No.
He's the man who talks like this, you know. I was in a show called Your Show of Shows, which you're all too young to remember. And we looked in the corner, and there was a man standing there in a suit and a fedora, and it was Edwin. And we went over to say hello. He was watching rehearsal, and his son Keenan had just divorced his wife, and Van Johnson had divorced his wife, and they married each other's ex-wives. And somebody said, "Gee, you must have been excited about your son Keenan getting married." He said, "Oh yeah, for a while there I thought he was going to marry Van, you know." No, that's a story right out of school. True story. Okay, where will we go from here? And I was in one Broadway show or another, and then finally I came out to California because I was out of work. And one thing led to another. I was on a show in New York called Your Show of Shows with Sid Caesar and Imogen Coca and Carl Reiner and me. And that went well for a while. I'll speed this up as I go. I went out to the coast and I got a call from one of the ex-writers of the Show of Shows. He said, "Listen, we got a character here called Ernest T. Bass, and we don't know what to do with it. You want to do it?" I said, "Sure, how much?" And I was given the script and I decided I would do it. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I did it, and it was a hit. I did something that was right, so they asked me back for another one. Do you know how many Ernest T. Basses I did, finally, out of the entire series? It was 5. And it's kind of amazing that the character has grasped as it has. It had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the writing and the concept and the show, which is a defined thing to be part of. It was just wonderful. I mean, you have no idea what crap you get involved in. And this was not that at all. This was something very special. The people, the ingredients of it. It's life perhaps as it used to be. Watch the O.J. Simpson trial and you'll see life as it is. That was life as it was. Hey, Judge?
That's great, Howard.
Well, I am not finished.
Oh, yes, you are. I got a stopwatch, and you are long done.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for having me.
Oh. Back on that, Howard. We just want to know what your career background was. Before we get to Elinor, I just want to ask, I mean, you talked about the writers. Is that what made the end of your show?
Who are you? What do you want?
A rock in the head.
I got one of those voices. Your voice is almost as deep as hers.
Daphne, now we're going to get together later on and compare. Hi, Dal. How you doing? No, you guys talked about, was the writing that made the show so great? Or
Yes.
did they give you guys a chance to kind of build your character around the, or was it just, here's the character, you guys just fit into this?
No, it's a conglomerate effort having to do with the writing concept and the producing concept and the directing concept and the acting concept. And they let our juices flow.
Wow. You don't think you said that before, have you?
No, we were allowed to engender what it was that we felt about it. And sometimes it worked. In my case, it seemed to work.
Howard did not mention that he's a hell of a director and he was just giving you...
I was getting to that when he cut me off.
beg your forgiveness. No, seriously, did you direct some of those episodes?
Yes, I did. Can I turn the microphone over to my dear friend Elinor?
Why?
Because you've got to open your mouth. Here's the microphone.
What am I supposed to tell you?
Whatever you
About
want.
your...
I worked with
But Eleanor, just basically, we know you as Ellie Walker, and then you've been in several other sitcoms since then. The Father Knows Best, The Odd Couple, Tony Randall's girlfriend in there. And maybe just talk a little bit about that and what it was like to work with Tony Randall and on that set, and maybe some of the differences between, the Andy Griffith Show, to the progression, to The Odd Couple, and some of the other things that you've done, and maybe some of your favorites. Maybe you got a story about Tony Randall or something. Or
I'm not leaving you anything.
it's really, it's all you, whatever you want to talk. And I know this is the first time for Eleanor, so we're just going to take our time a little bit.
Well, I thought you were going to ask me questions, so I'm not prepared with a little thingy. I enjoy doing the Andy Griffith Show, and this is terribly awkward to kind of hold it up.
Isn't that weird?
No, you're fine. We can hear you fine.
Get up there.
I was only on the show for the first year. I left the show by choice, but as I had said in an article, I had my agent ask for my out because I thought my contract was going to be dropped anyway. So I wanted to get out before they fired me. I didn't really think I was any good in the show, and I didn't feel good about what I was contributing to it. So I've been very amazed down through the years, having people remember the character. It was a difficult time in my life, personally, and so I kind of moved on from that show. One kind of sweet thing during the preparing for the second year, Earl Hagen did the music, and he wrote a theme. He wrote a theme called Ellie's Theme, and he had sent a record to my husband of this piece of music that was absolutely gorgeous. It was just as sweet and wonderful as could be. Well, I had already sent my agent to get me out of the contract, and Earl Hagen just about strung himself up because he could never use Ellie's theme because it was written for me. Now, he should have used the piece of music and called it somebody else's theme, but he never did. He just retired it, and unfortunately, y'all never got to hear that. I wish I had a copy of it
Gonna
now.
sing it for us?
Never, no, I don't remember it, except I remember it very fondly. It was terribly nice. I loved working with Ron Howard, who was the most talented child actor I've ever worked with. I worked with some real corkers in my day. Some real, no, I mean that in a good sense. I mean some really, really good child actors, but he was the best. He was present and he was there, and there was no acting. He just, I don't know how he did it, but he was wonderful to work with, and I adored him.
How old was Ron when that series started?
He was 5,
Wow.
because he was 2 years older than my eldest son. I've since had 3 more boys. But Brian was 3 when we started the show.
And he memorized all those lines?
Oh yeah,
every 5
oh
years
yeah,
old?
yeah. And he knew everything, and he never made a mistake. Never. He never fluffed his lines.
It was
Do you
great.
remember that? He was just terrific, and just like a little old guy. And unlike some child actors whose parents are very visible, Rance was there if you needed him, and there for Ronnie at all times. Rance Howard being his daddy. But he was never on top of the camera. He was never being daddy dearest. He was way off in the corner. And Ron was just this little old guy. But he was a child, he wasn't a
Real little boy.
obnoxious. He was just a wonderful child. I adored him.
So it's kind of fun to watch his success now.
Oh, yeah. I'm so proud of him. Really, I wrote him a fan letter. I was up in Canada doing a play, and I wrote him a fan letter. The first movie that he directed.
Which was the first one he directed?
I can't remember.
I'm trying to think.
Splash?
Splash.
Splash was the first one?
He had directed others, but the first big one, I think,
They put him on the
was
map,
Splash.
yeah. That's great.
So unless someone has questions to ask me, yes?
Going way back.
Okay.
This is before Mayberry, when you were Princess. And you were more or less in the 50s there, an idol for a lot of us when we were teenagers. Were you notified psychologically the effect you had on a lot of us teenagers?
Not
I know I
then.
had a crush on you,
Oh.
although I didn't know you, but I mean, it was so very few good programs in television. Father Knows Best was one of the mainstays in our young lives.
Well, thank you very much. No, at the time, as you all have said about the Andy Griffith Show, you never expected it to continue on. We were just doing a sitcom. Some of the criticisms has been of Father Knows Best that it idealized that time period, and that it made people feel negative about their own families because they couldn't have a Father Knows Best family. But we were only doing an entertainment. We weren't meant to be a treatise on how to live. It was just meant to be an entertainment. Have a little half-an-hour situation that was completed at the end of the time period. But I thank you very much for your love for that.
And one in the back?
Yes, Elinor, I had a crush on you when growing up with Father Knows Best. When you appeared, the feelings came back.
Oh, thank you.
You haven't changed a lick. You're as beautiful as ever. But I'm a Dr. Quinn fan, and I appreciate you done a marvelous part on Saturday night.
Thank you
Really
very
enjoyed
much.
that.
Yes, in case all of you didn't see that, I saw it. She was lovely, wasn't she?
Yeah, that was the second
Dr.
episode
Quinn.
that I've done of Dr.
She
Quinn.
did one.
And I play Jane Seymour's eldest sister, Rebecca, the sweet sister. I really love doing that show, and that's a lot of fun. I think I better turn over.
No, they have questions yet, I'm sure.
Anybody else have a question for Elinor?
I do.
Yeah, okay. Well, Lyle, go just a second. You sir?
Well, it wasn't a question, but as the fans are here, and as we know you from a number of series, but if they started Father Knows Best tomorrow, you could be the daughter starting tomorrow, and it's never changed again.
It's true.
There was a plan at one time, the Family Channel wanted to do a new Father Knows Best series. And it was going to be called what was it? Well, I can't remember now. The new, it wasn't the new Father Knows Best, but
Father knows
Father
Joyce.
Still Knows Best. Father Still Knows Best. And it was going to be Jane and Bob Young were going to be in it, but kind of in a peripheral way. And the story featured Betty and her husband and children with Lauren and Billy Gray kind of coming in and visiting. And it was going to be a new Father Knows Best with me as the mother. And it was within a hairbreadth of being signed by a co-deal with Universal. And somebody at the Family Channel now admits they made an error in negotiation. The deal went boom like that, and that was the end of it, and it's never returned. So that was the end of that.
Lyle?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, there was only you and Annette in the 50s, of course. But I was wondering, when you were doing that kind of crazy little show in the 60s, Star Trek, did you ever think that episode would have such, or that show would have such an impact?
Well, yeah, I think they knew that Star Trek was going to be something extremely special. Yeah, they treated it, I think the episode I did was in the first year, or maybe the beginning of the second year, but they knew it was going to go on forever and ever, because they took really, really long, good time with that. Matter of fact, something happened to a piece of the film while we were shooting. We had to go back, and I was on it 10 days longer than I might normally have been. And that's the kind of time they took, instead of just hurrying it along the way they might do today.
Did you know Roddenberry? Did you like him?
I'd never met him. I talked to him on the telephone. He called me up and asked if I would do this part, because I had pretty much retired. Shortly after the Andy Griffith show, I did a few more episodes of television, but I was then having children not close together, but every couple of years I'd be pregnant. And I really enjoyed having my family, and I loved taking care of my children, and I loved being pregnant and the whole thing. So I really wasn't working. I didn't have an agent, and if anybody wanted me for something, and I found out, and looking back, somebody sent me a bio that they had made up for me, that I actually worked at least once every year. But that was only because somebody would call me at home and say, would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? And I'd say, oh, yeah, sure, fine, I can do that. So that's how it happened with Gene Roddenberry. He called me at home and asked me if I'd be interested. And I said, sure. And that's how I did the part. But it was fun. It was fun to do. Really good. I had a good time.
I have a question.